have so many good reads to share with you. This is my February wrap up and I'm so excited to share some of these books because I had so many good reads. So let's get into it, although a little delayed. I have my trusty dandy piece of paper here with all of the information, so I may be looking at this every once in a while. Beginning with the stats, I read 12 books in the month of February, equivalent to 4,025 pages. Splitting that up into rating, I had 1 2.5 stars, 1 3 stars, 2 3.5 stars, 3 4 stars, 4 4.5 stars, and 1 5 stars. So as normal, I'm going to be going through them in star rating from lowest to highest, so let's get to it. Beginning with my 2.5 star read, I have Ice Planet Barbarians, and if you didn't know from my previous video, I got a Kindle Unlimited sort of trial subscription for a little bit, and this is one of the books that I read with it. And yeah, as I said, 2.5 stars. The themes that this encapsulated had romance, it was quite smutty, aliens, and another world, but the main character was sort of figuring out the other world as well, so it felt like an exploration piece at the same time, so you didn't really have to be thrown into it and only you were figuring it out, but the characters were as well. And it was quite an easy, fast-paced read. I think it wasn't that long either, and I know this is like an ever-growing series and it's quite popular. It's part of like a monster romance kind of subgenre, I think, and this is one of my first introductions to that, and it felt really weird, and some parts were a bit like, oh, like I don't like reading this and like thinking about it, but overall it was just a fun, easy, kind of like silly, goofy read, I suppose, that was just enjoyable. And I do recommend it if you're just looking for something to switch your brain off and just get lost in this thing. If you can deal with the kind of maybe a bit of like a, oh, this is a bit weird, then yeah, I recommend that book to you. Then moving on to my 3 star, I had Prisoner, in which again, very much out of my comfort zone. It was like a mafia style read, and this had themes of a captive, mafia, strong heroine, a possessive male, but I want to caveat that with a really unhinged brackets possessive male, because some of the things in which the main character did in this book, it was like, I don't know, I can't even make logical sense of it. It was just so bizarre, so unhinged, and just so unforgivable, and yeah, just very messed up. And it was quite spicy as well, and from the title you can guess that it was based in a prison. And yeah, like I say, because I haven't read much from this genre before, it was a very eye-opening reading it, because a lot of it was very sort of sexual and really intense, and it felt really awful, and there were a lot of awful themes that were going on in this book as well, that it really made me cringe, and I didn't really like that, but I loved how this book made me feel. I cried throughout it. Like, this book had so much emotion packed into it, and which was just insane to me, because all I've heard about sort of the mafia subgenre is that it's very just like steamy and not much plot, and sort of just kind of, yeah, that the book is just how it is, but this just encapsulated so much emotion, and it was just a roller coaster. I can't even really articulate how I felt while reading it, but yeah, I had a fun time. That's why I rated it 3 stars. So if those themes do sound interesting to you, I recommend picking up this read. So moving on to my 3.5 star reads, we first of all have Two Twisted Crowns, in which is the second book to One Dark Window. I'm not going to go into too much detail as to what this book is about, because I don't want to spoil the first one, but if I just go on the themes that both of the books sort of encapsulated without any spoilers, we obviously have themes of it being the second book, so it's a lead on a fantasy, tarot cards that have magical actions, so you can actually action something with the tarot cards, romance, dual POV, and royalty. And yeah, this one again was really interesting. It focused a lot more on those secondary characters that were introduced in the first book, and the pieces just explored much more. I didn't love the first book, but it ended on such a cliffhanger that I just had to find out more, and so that's why I did dive into this one, and I had a fun time with it. It was like an average read. I wasn't sort of waiting to pick it up, but at the same time I didn't want to like not enjoy it or not read it. So yeah, perhaps pick up this duology if that sounds interesting to you. It was definitely a unique magic system, and I've never read anything like that before, so that was a very interesting, unique piece. So my next 3.5 star was Lease on Love, which had themes of rich boyfriend, childhood trauma, finding meaning in life again, friendship, dreams and making it reality, and it was a rom-com. I didn't realise, but I had actually already read this book, and when I was reading it, it was just so fast paced and so quick to read that I didn't even mind. I didn't realise until like 50 to 100 pages in that I had actually read this book previously, until I kind of started guessing what was happening, and I was like, hang on, how do I know this? And then I remember like, oh, I read this book. Anyway, so besides the point, I had fun with this book. I feel like it's just definitely one of those, a palette cleanser in a sense, because you can just pick it up, fly through it, know you're just getting involved and wrapped in the characters, and I felt like it was definitely an escapist book, and that's sort of like an ongoing theme with this month, because if you don't know, I've been having quite a stressful time recently with just life and the house situation, blah blah. But anyway, I thought I definitely recommend it if you're looking for that kind of read, and just, yeah, like those typical rom-com easy reads, then this is a book definitely I would recommend. So, moving on to my 4-star reads, I have 2 unhinged, unreliable female narrator books. First one was My Year of Rest and Relaxation, and this is my first Atesha Moshfegh book. I do own 𝐴𝐵𝐼𝐻 as well, so I'm really interested in reading that. But back to My Year of Rest and Relaxation, it had themes of an unreliable narrator, obsession, drugs and fever dream narrative, and I don't feel like this book was best placed with me with my current headspace that I'm in. I feel like I could have got a lot more out of it rather than being in the current headspace that I'm in. It did also have a derogatory term to autistic people, in which just didn't sit well with me, and I was unable to see past it, even though it was sort of part of the narrative. And yeah, it was a really interesting book. I didn't really understand the purpose of it. It felt very much like no plot, just vibes, that sort of thing. But again, maybe I didn't read deep enough into it because I had that emotional like element there from personally as well. But I thought it was really good. I thought it was really well done, really well written, and really interesting to make me feel all of these different emotions and question all these different things. I feel quite frustrated at the main character at times. I was interested in learning more about the motive and why. Like I say, I just really enjoy and seem to be obsessed and loving these unreliable, unhinged female narrative stories at the moment. And so leading on to my next 4-star read is Miss March, and this had themes of it being mysterious, fever dream and confusion / delusional. Everything happened at once, and an unreliable narrator as well. I actually think I enjoyed this a little bit more than My Year of Rest and Relaxation, but yeah, without pitting them against each other, this one again was just, I can't really articulate how it made me feel and what it was about, because it was just so fever dream-esque, and it was just sort of those things in which you have to read it to understand it. But I just had so much fun with it, and like I say, if you do enjoy books with those themes, then I recommend either one of these to you. Perhaps if you are struggling emotionally at the moment at all, then I'd gravitate to Miss March rather than My Year of Rest and Relaxation. Definitely recommend them both. The final 4-star read I have to share with you today is That One Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. That is such a big title. Again, I picked this up with my Kindle Unlimited subscription, and this had themes of demons, and they can have human forms in this world. They are coexisting with humans, adventure, dark magic, romance, friendship, fun, spicy and family. This one was just a good time. It had a little bit themes of, it was similar to animal abuse, but not really. That kind of unsettled my stomach a little bit, but it wasn't overly intense. It was more so like a really fun read and more like a adventure, light-hearted book in total, which I just really enjoyed, and I really felt like this book was just all about adventure. So glad I picked it up, and I've been hearing really good reviews about it as well since I read it. Yeah, if it has piqued your interest, then I do recommend it. It was quite a short book, I think, for it was just a really fun book that you felt that you could just, again, cozy up with, get lost in, and just know that it's like really low stakes, get wrapped up in it. We have my 4.5-star book, starting off with Love Redesigned. Again, I read this on Kindle Unlimited, and that was featured in my previous vlog. This had themes of a billionaire, toxic relationships, childhood friends to lovers, family and home, anxiety and depression, and trauma and opening up. This book, if you watched that previous vlog, you know I was just giddy about it and I could not put it down. I absolutely devoured this book, and I just sometimes love just having these romances that feel so true and so raw and real, and the communication in this book as well was just so well done, which is quite rare to see. And I feel like I just really clicked with this book. I really clicked with it, really connected with it, and was just rooting for the main characters, and that just felt so wholesome overall. I had a really wholesome experience reading this book, and I definitely recommend it if you have had any interest in it at all. I know it is quite popular and sometimes that does deter people away, like I'm the same. So I do recommend it and I had so much fun with it. Then my next 4.5 star read is Mr. Wrong Number, another rom-com, and this had themes of close proximity, some steamy parts, texting and a real relationship sort of parallel ongoing, hate to love, family, female main character is a mess and the male main character has sort of got it all together, that kind of trope. I just loved how raw and real and just vulnerable and easy the female main character was to connect with. I feel like very identified to her as well. I am quite like a klutzy, messy person. I'm always like spilling something or breaking something or doing something, and I tend to just get in my head about it all the time. But reading this book, it made me feel normal. It made me feel like, okay, no, it just does happen, like I can fix it, it's fine. Stop having all of these high standards for myself, and I really enjoyed that about this book. It really made me feel happy and it made me feel excited, and although the plot twist in this book, everyone saw it coming, I think you can understand what it is from just my themes alone, it was still fun. It was just still enjoyable, still fun, and I had a really good time reading it, so I definitely recommend that one. And we have two books in which is The Bridge Kingdom and The Traitor Queen, and so I want to loop these in together because I can't really say themes with the second book without spoiling it, so I kind of just want to do overarching themes. So this had themes of romantasy, war and politics, enemies to lovers, royalty, banter, friendship, adventures, and the first book does end on a cliffhanger. I just want to say that. The reason I read the second book is because I was yabbering on about it so much to my boyfriend Ethan that he just went out and bought me the second book because I was just in so shock that it ended the way it did and that it left on a cliffhanger, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, I need the second book. And so he actually brought me the second book. And what I didn't realise is this book is a series, and our two main characters that are featured in the first book, their story actually ends in the second book. And then for the third and the fourth book, I believe, it's a different character story that then is overtaken. So I'm just happy with reading the first and the second book for now, to be completely honest, because I just really did fall in love with the two main characters that were featured in this book. But I just thought, again, the writing was just so well done, and this book did make me sob tears, because with everything ongoing in the world, reading about war and politics, you can't help but attribute it to what is going on. And although that wasn't the intention of this book, it just really broke my heart in the best possible way. And I was obviously already feeling so much anger and sorrow for what is going on, but it just made me feel like so emotional and so devastated that humans would put each other through this. But yeah, there are lots of better resources out there, and I don't want it to take up too much time when you could be searching elsewhere with own voices and better resources than me. But just to kind of convey how this book made me feel and why I do recommend it, those were the main themes in which I found were encapsulated in this book. And like I say, if you do read the first book, it does end on a cliffhanger, so I highly recommend buying the second book or reading the second book straight away. It was so much fun, and I had a really good time. Then moving on to my 5-star book, and the final book in this video is Once Upon a Broken Heart. So I finally got into the hype and it did not disappoint. This had themes of romantasy, fairy tale whimsy, friendships, royalty, lies and deceit, and playing with fate and mystery. I want to read the second book in this installment so badly, but I have heard it goes severely downhill. And I am petrified because I loved this first book so much. I was so scared of it because of the hype. I get so scared of books because of hype, but it didn't disappoint in the slightest. And so if you have been like me and scared of the book because it has hype, or you are worried about it, then I just want to say it was so much fun. And if those themes sound interesting to you, then you will love it. Like I say, I'm really scared to read the second book. So if you have read it and it does live up to the first one, please do let me know. Other than that, that is the wrap up for February. I want to announce my feature book of the month, and I think if my feature book basically is a book in which I would recommend to you, if you didn't watch this whole video and you just watched this end piece, what book would I recommend to you? I think I have to go with two, and that has to be The Bridge Kingdom and Once Upon a Broken Heart, just for the emotions that they made me feel. They felt really nostalgic in the sense that I could just get lost in them, and I was just so encapsulated and enraptured with the world, and when I put it down, all I could think about was those books, and that just feels really nostalgic for me, because when I was a lot younger and I wanted to escape, that is exactly how reading would make me feel. And growing up and getting older and having life happen, I reach for these kind of reads so much more often, because life is tricky, life is hard, and so much is going on all of the time. So I just love books that make me feel like that, and escapist reads, just my joy. So thank you ever so much for watching this video. If you have any recommendations or words, please do let me know in the comments below. I hope that wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you have a wonderful day or night, and until next adventure and next time, bye!